information briefing to order. It is now 6:30 p.m. on Tuesday, January 24th, 2012. Before we go further, I want to introduce with me this evening is Senator Chris Duenas. Thank you, Senator, for joining us. The purpose of tonight's information briefing, the committee had requested this information briefing to provide an opportunity to the airport to inform both the legislature and the community of ongoing and future initiatives that the airport is undertaking. Beginning in the 31st legislature, as the committee chair, I made it clear that I really had three priority initiatives that I was hoping the airport would undertake, and that was the activation of the water system, forward movement on the Tiyan Parkway project, and the energy conservation initiatives. Since then, the airport has made significant strides in addressing these issues, and I anticipate that we will be provided a status on these matters in addition to other issues that may be beneficial to the stakeholders in the community. For tonight's briefing, the committee had requested that the following information be presented: the status of the airport water system, status on the Tiyan Parkway project, the energy conservation initiatives, capital improvement projects in progress or being planned, general discussions regarding the airport's real estate and lease program, and other information that the airport may deem beneficial to the committee and the community. And so with that, then, I'd like to call forward the chairman of the board, Mr. Mike Israel, and the executive manager, and of course, other folks that you may want to bring up. Fine. I do want to recognize of course, present with us also is Mr. Jess Torres, who is also a member of the board, and Deputy General Manager, Executive Manager, Mr. Peter Roy Martinez. So with that, I'm going to go ahead, Mr. Chairman, and open up, and we'll proceed with the briefing. Thank you.
Deputy Chairman Adam, Senator Duenas, thank you for giving the airport an opportunity to update the legislature, our ultimate boss, on the progress and challenges that we think we'll be facing this year. Mary will actually provide a lot of the more detailed information on the specific projects. She has that information more readily available. Overall, I see the airport going forward. We have sort of two major tasks facing us. Guam is growing. Our importance in the region is growing. The FAA recognizes that, and they continue to be very supportive of the airport, including a recent project involving an upgrade of the landing system. Guam demonstrated its importance just the other day, or earlier last year, when they had a disaster in Japan, and even though Japan is nearly on the close, relatively very, very far away, and the disaster had no effect on us, nonetheless, we found ourselves inundated with flights from all over the entire region that were landing on Guam on an emergency basis. We also are a backup airport for the military, and Guam's importance for the military is growing. So Guam's very, very important. However, we face two major challenges. The first challenge, of course, is our legacy. We have 10 years. The airport is coming up on its 12 years from when we moved into our new facility, and we've had a lot of growing pains. And that's one of my areas that I'm pushing as a board member. I'm pushing management to address those growing pains that are mainly the arrivals, the comfort levels, the more mundane parts of the airport operations. Simultaneously, while we're addressing those issues, we also have to address growth issues. And as you said earlier, we will be growing. So it's going to be a very challenging time while we deal with the old and we have to deal with the new. And the good news is we seem to have the resources, both financially, and the other half, of course, is our management team, which we need to push to address both issues. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Israel. Mr. Torres, or Mrs. Torres?
Mr. Chairman, good evening. Senator
Turn on your mic.
Duenas. Is this working? Hello. It's working now. Yeah. Mr. Chairman, thank you so much. I fully support the statements made by the chairman of the airport board and our executive manager here, Mrs. Torres, is here, and even the deputy executive manager. Just to share some thoughts, for those folks, I'm pretty sure members of the committee are fully aware of the extreme value of our airport living in an island community. It's not reasonable for people to take a train to go to the other islands, or for that matter, to go east to Hawaii and the West Coast. Being an island community, and being that the people of this island had invested very heavily on a gem that belongs to the people, and from Chairman Israel, myself, and even the management team, we're very privileged to be able to be a part of making the growth of that airport, which is named after one of our political leaders, the late Honorable Speaker and Congressman and Delegate Antonio Borja Wampat. I think it's a pride and joy, and I second the motion as far as the chairman is concerned, that our role in our community is extremely valuable. And we cannot afford to allow for the facilities to get deflated, so to speak, for a lack of better description, but to work very closely with our consultants, with our management team, and at the end of the day, certainly to get you and your committee, the folks down in Adeline, as well as Speaker Wampat, because united, there's nothing that we cannot overcome. But through this kind of a briefing, you're giving us the privilege of perhaps hearing from us firsthand some of the challenges that we're faced. But we're here to try to answer any and all questions that perhaps both you and Senator Duenas and other members as they come in, and we'd be more than happy to address it the best we know how. So thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you very much, Mr. Torres. And you're the vice chair, right?
No, sir. I'm just a member. I'm
Okay.
the latest in a series of 7 members. This August body actually confirmed the governor's nomination on the 4th of August, and I remember that very, very distinctly because August is my date of birth, and I kind of lost track of my age when I turned 49. So that's the last month. But I'm the last. There's 7 of us all together.
Okay. Thank you very much. All right. So,
Is it okay if I stand? Am
sure,
I audible if I
please.
stand?
Sure.
All right. I'd like to first of all thank you for the opportunity to brief you on the business of the airport. And I acknowledge that you've also helped tremendously with our progress. But
Oh, you're going to need to be able to speak into the mic because then the viewing audience will be able to
I'll sit
hear.
down.
Yeah.
Thank you. But before I begin, I'd like to acknowledge the presence of my team members who are with me today, including our air terminal manager, our airport services manager, our controller, our deputy, our chief engineer, consultants. This is the team, Senator, that makes it all happen at the airport. And thank you for being with me tonight. In order to appreciate the business of the airport, I think it's important to just go over the vision. We certainly aspire to realize a standard in excellence as a safe and secure world-class premier aviation hub in the region. As we're aware, the airport is
Hold on. Just one moment, please, because I think we're having some visual challenges here. Are they feeding in directly? Are they feeding in directly because it wasn't coming through? Is that a direct feed? Okay. All right. Please proceed. some people are watching, calling, asking to speak a little louder. Having a hard time hearing.
Leasing program is very dear to us, and I know it's important just as well to the regulators because the leasing program is one of those programs that enables us to be self-sustaining. Airport has a requirement to be self-sustaining, to generate enough funds to maintain and operate itself.
Thank you very much. I'm going to go ahead and I've got some questions. And Senator Duenas, did you have any questions? Go ahead. I do. Okay, go ahead.
Thank you very much, Mary and Mike, and our good friend, Mr. Torres. Very nice presentation, very thorough, and I enjoyed it. A couple of little things and then a couple maybe bigger things. Constant feedback from the community and from travelers is on the current state. I don't know if it's been corrected already on the arrivals, in particular restrooms, in terms of their cleanliness and just their outdatedness as well in being updated. I understand that exists now even in the exit of the arrival areas. Can you give us a status on where we are at with that?
Last year, we completed a pilot project for a model, an energy-efficient model for restrooms. And there were some lessons learned from that. Indeed, it's not a model that we may want to duplicate in terms of a design build. But we do know that in every facility there is a life cycle, and our restrooms do need to be updated. That is on the plans. But in the interim, what we are trying to get a handle on more efficiently is the management of our contracts, because the restrooms are outsourced. They're not performed by the airport management. But we do recognize that it is a very important component to the traveling experience. And we do have a team of quality assurance personnel that are following our contractors. But we do know that we need to vigorously improve in our standard of cleanliness, or at least our consistency in cleanliness. And assuming that we can generate enough funds, everything is dependent on funds. We would like to make that a priority project in the renovations this year.
Okay, yeah, because that's the constant feedback that I get anyways. It's just maybe more frequent attention to the cleaning cycles and the like, just because that typically is the issue on the average person going in, is just saying, man, it's just not clean. Or
yeah, and there really aren't enough restrooms, and a lot of them are overused, and yeah, so it's a myriad of factors.
Okay.
But certainly note it.
Sure. One other issue, Mike?
Senator, speaking from the board, on the board level, at this point I'll be for myself, but of course I think I share a lot of the frustrations the board has. We are not satisfied with the level of services being provided at the airport and vis-a-vis the restroom facility. I don't agree that the problem is outdated bathrooms as much as we have some internal plumbing problems that were from the construction period. They have to be addressed, they have to be fixed. As Mary alluded, the pilot project, unmitigated fiasco. I'm sorry, there's just no way that we can justify that the renovated bathroom is a disaster. And I am not convinced that the current bathrooms we have aren't necessarily that bad. They're a good design. They're made out of very, very high quality institutional materials. The materials and design used in the pilot program were more residential. They will not last. In fact, I don't even think they last the punch list item. And in fact, I don't think I've accepted those as even a finished product. We need to better manage the project. Mary is absolutely dead right on that. The contractors can do a better job, and the few times that we've come down on them, they have responded very, very well. But then it has to be a constant effort. And we need to improve the airport management of those contracts, like Mary said.
Thanks, Mike. Another issue that came up as a constituent complaint, and this is something that I experienced as well. When we moved over to the new carts, they seemed to be maybe not as durable, and they had some issues in terms of, even just the use of them, not moving when they're almost staying in a permanent brake position, or like, has there been some work with that on the vendor side, or I mean, does the airport share that observation from some of the traveling public?
Absolutely. I mean, we are, I don't want to comment as much, Senator, at this point because we are seeking remedies at
Okay.
this point, and,
Okay.
but, yes.
So that clearly is an issue.
Absolutely.
Okay, thanks.
I believe we're buying carts.
We're doing several things, yeah.
Okay, just so long as, like I said, when I get these constituent discussions going on out there, my answer can be they're remedying that and they're going to do something about it. So thanks. So on the financials, so we're looking at. Am I reading this right? At a $16 million, basically a surplus for fiscal year 11. Okay, so maybe I'm just not reading this right, or maybe I'm not really that good at this type of a chart. But you got the 49.2 million in revenues, expenses at 33.7. Versus budget. So maybe I'm missing something here.
Yeah. Yeah, I think what you're looking at is the debt service coverage.
Yeah, so you got under 2011, you've got your revenues at 49.2 million. You've got your expenses at 33.7 million. And so then if you subtract the two, it looks to me like a $16 million surplus.
But it doesn't include the debt service,
Okay,
Senator,
okay.
which is what we have to, our funds are obligated
Oh,
to
so there's
first.
the 16 point under the CPE?
No,
No?
the debt service coverage, we have to repay the bond that we floated when we constructed the thing.
Yeah.
Would you like to speak?
And what
to
is that amount?
16
Oh, okay, so
million.
it's basically a net neutral in terms of
There's
closing
a
out the
slight-
years just about even. Yeah? Okay,
less.
just that when I saw that and didn't realize that that factor was in there, I said, "Wow, we already got a lot of money. We could build the new restaurants." Yeah, don't tell us that. Yeah. Okay, thanks. Okay, so I understand that that's basically just a net neutral in terms of revenue and expenses.
Yeah.
Okay, on the charter operations, is this 50 under 2012? Is that a projection, or you've already received 50 charters in 2012?
That's what we've received so far.
Wow.
And
That's-
some of it is also what we have projected into the next month, I think to February or March.
Well, that's good news.
So
Huh?
these are scheduled.
I mean,
yeah.
that should really boost revenues. I mean, in terms of, are those passenger craft or?
Mhm.
Great. That's
We
excellent.
just saw
Yeah,
one
so not just
last
cargo.
night from China, from Dalian, that came in last night. So
Wow, that's
it's
really
those sorts of
encouraging.
charters.
I mean, you've already, gone over by 10 charters in the entire year of 2011.
And that
So
was
in 2012, we're a month into it, and very, very good, encouraging.
It's sort of a trend that the airlines are doing to us. It's not actually that good. I mean, we'd prefer having them commit to us and
Sure.
be regular. But instead, because of the high volatility the last few years, the airlines are much more, they'll have signatory airlines, and even our signatory airlines are also bringing in charters. They just don't want to commit to it until they see a steady flow.
Okay.
It's very, very volatile. So as much as we like the charters, we'd like to convert those into actually scheduled, steady, we can rely on aircraft.
Yeah, I mean, but I also saw that your movements though are steady, and so yeah. I mean, if that was testing the market, we're going to hope to capture that at some point. But your trend is still really good. So if you get a spike there, and then we end up with additional commitments, that's going to be good news for all of us.
Charters are
right?
more expensive for the airlines, so they would like to convert them into schedule. They just
Yeah.
don't know whether they're ready to commit.
And that was probably reflective of the holiday season as well, right? I mean, some of that coming in early for another. Great. On the Parkway, you made a great presentation on. I mean, it seems like you're moving, but it's a tricky process. But so on what you've discussed in terms of the possibilities now in the phase 1 and phase 2, is that a mapped proposed road currently?
There is a sketch that was made that that did the alignment, but we have to understand too that we understand we have a consensus on where it works for everybody. You know,
Okay.
because if you were to come up with a project, the airport had to agree that yeah, it makes sense to go through our property. At one point, you know, that wasn't contemplated because there was land that was provided for the roadway. So that's one of the consensus that the airport has made. But of course, the EA that's being conducted by DPW will provide or prescribe the preferred alignment.
Okay.
But we do have a consensus on generally where it will run and where it approximately will come out. But that can't be. That's not a product that precedes the
Okay.
EA.
And the reason why I mentioned this, and Mike, you might be adding to this, is that there are not only private landowners currently, of course, as the land was returned, but even with the airport, any use of your properties in the future that have any issues with regard to access are going to be determined by that proposed road, because you couldn't even make a plan right now. Land management wouldn't sign off on one if you didn't have a proposed road. Now, this is an issue for folks who return their land around the Teanston area that cannot subdivide property because of the fact that currently the way it was returned and that land in terms of the military did not carve out easements. So what you have is landlocked property, and you can't do that. Land management is precluded or prevented from doing anything with those maps until. But if you have a proposed road, it's accepted as a known access. So that's why I'm saying if this really looks good and the airport's gonna sign off on it, then it would be really important to move forward with Public Works to get a proposed road put through so that even the airport themselves can move on developing those available properties.
But just a clarification, we at the airport, I mean, the Parkway is a DPW project.
Okay.
We're just sort of a bystander.
Sure.
And we're trying to be as cooperative as possible.
Mhm.
And in this case, there was a problem. The road was slated to go right through the middle of land that was given back by the government
Right.
to the landowners. And the problem was how to take care of that. And so the solution was
Right.
to divert the road through a tip of the airport road.
Right.
So of course, our cooperation was necessary, which we cooperated, but of course, we also, as Mary's presentation has been saying throughout, we actually are the airport is many partners.
Sure.
And every time we do something, we need to get a sign off by all our partners.
Right.
Especially the FAA. And the FAA was scratching its head saying, "Your airport, what are you guys talking about roads?"
Right.
But we were able to. The FAA has been very cooperative, and I mean, we're all working together.
Yeah.
But we're not the driver of the roads,
Okay.
the road issue. We're in this case facilitating some of
Yeah.
that.
So we have DPW next week. So we're going to say that we talked to the airport and they've done their due diligence, and they've made their intentions known that airport property, it will be part of it, so that we can ask DPW, okay, can we get moving on a proposed road so that we can give relief to not only our landowners, but also even to the government, because just because we're government doesn't mean that any of your projects will go through if they don't have an actual easement.
Okay, before we go any further, I want to go ahead and ask some questions on
Sure.
some of the other components. Mrs. Torres, I'd like to go to the on the financial results here. While it shows what you've shown, and maybe if you can just, well, it doesn't actually show on the TV screen, but it shows that financially the airport seems to be doing quite well. But I went to your website and I pulled down your annual report for the year 2010. And under the assets, the current assets, it shows, for example, for the period ending September 30, 2010, or actually for September ending 2009, it was listed there a $12.8 million in total unrestricted current assets, but of that there was $4.4 million in accounts receivable. So in other words, it's basically you have IOUs and you have cash, and the accounts receivables, the IOUs, accounts for about 34% of those assets. And then in 2010, we in according, because I don't have the 2011, but in 2010, those accounts receivables accounted for by my calculation 89% of the total unrestricted current assets. Can you maybe talk to that for a little bit? Basically, it means to me, I'm looking at this and and it's telling me, yeah, we're bringing in, we're generating a lot of revenues, but we're not collecting it.
I think I'd like to ask my controller to answer that. It has to do with, I think, federal projects and the drawdowns and the schedule of drawdowns on that.
Okay. Well, can you
If-
come
if
step forward,
Carlos,
please,
yeah.
Mr.
He speaks numbers better than I do,
Okay.
Senator.
Here,
If,
maybe
um,
if you want, I can show you the.
Yes, I saw
Okay.
the numbers earlier. That's yes. But in 2009, we actually had.
And your position with the airport.
I'm
is-
sorry, Mr. Chairman. I am acting comptroller of AB Wampan International Airport.
And just stand back a little bit from the mic.
Oh, I'm sorry. My name is Carlos Bradley.
Okay.
Okay.
There you go.
Yes. The receivables are, of course, a function of the revenues, like you say. And in 2009, we had about 41.3 million in operating revenues. That number went up to 47.2. I'm sorry. Okay.
It sounded muffled when you
Okay.
came close.
And then in 2011, our draft financial statements, which should be audited financial statements by tomorrow, show that we go up to 49.2 million as the presentation depicted. So we're seeing a corresponding increase in revenues and the receivables also. For the most part, and I can get an aging, I don't have the aging report with me, but for the most part, these receivables could be current. You know, so it's just a matter of timing.
So maybe if you can provide then to the committee, I would like to see that aging
Sure.
of the accounts, and because it just seems to have tripled from 2009 to 2010,
Mhm.
and I don't know what it looks like for 2011.
It's actually gone down.
And if you take a look at also, there's the next line down there, the customs fees.
Right.
It seems like you haven't been able. All of those are receivables.
Right.
It's on that report. So what's happening with that? That's
The customs fees were basically a pass-through for the custom fees that we remit down to DOA. So it's just a timing issue of when the custom fees are paid by all the airlines.
okay. So maybe if after the later in the week, then if you can provide information to the committee just to help us get a better understanding of these receivables.
Sure.
And that in fact it is not a case of that the airport is just not collecting what's due to it.
Sure.
On your water system, you've indicated, Mrs. Torres, that of course one of the benefits is that the community benefits from this water system that the airport, the FAA has invested in for the airport, and that it frees up demand. So that's water then that Guam Water Works can take and then use it to satisfy demands outside of the airport. About how much? What's the volume, annual volume of water that we're looking at to be displaced? Does anybody have information on that?
We do have an average number of usage. I'm just going to refresh my memory. We'll provide provide that to
Okay,
you.
fine.
I just don't remember off the top of my head. But it is
That-
from one of the wells.
That and the production capacity of the water system.
Yes.
Okay.
Because it basically takes two wells that we previously tapped and freeze that up for diversion to other users.
Right. Yeah, okay. But maybe you can get me just a
Yeah, I'll get you the number.
quantification of the
I just
volume.
don't recall off
Okay,
the top of my
good.
head.
On the Tiyan Parkway, do we have at this point yet a target date for when that phase one will begin so that we can start seeing the road being cut along the fence line there, from Route 8 to tie in to Central Avenue? Do we have a time frame for that yet?
We don't have a time frame, but what we're trying to work around is the time frame for the closure of Central Avenue. That's sort of the benchmark that we're all aspiring to meet. Now, that being that I'm not in charge of building the road, it really is dependent on Federal Highway and DPW when they can actually get all the components together for the build. But we anticipate that we will close Central Avenue anywhere from 14 months to 20 months down the road.
Okay.
For when the runway can actually become operational. So it's premised around that occurrence triggering the hopefully the completion or the opening up of the alternate access road.
Okay. And Department of Public Works will be here next week, so hopefully in their information briefing they'll talk more on the Tiyan Parkway. Are you aware if in the phase 2 you indicated that the alignment will require the reacquisition of properties? Do you know if any of that reacquisition is going to require land condemnation?
We are hoping that it doesn't need to require land condemnation. We're currently engaged in discussion with the landowners.
Okay.
And we've engaged the Governor's Office and the Ancestral Lands Commission and Land Management to see it, because Senator, we certainly want this to be a cooperative effort. We don't want to ignite any emotions that don't need to be ignited. I think that property has a long history. There's been compensation many times over for that. But regardless of that, we do want to make this a project that is a consensus between everybody, and where everybody understands the need and puts in their share to realize it.
Okay. That's it. I'll go ahead and you may have questions. Do you have on the leasing? Before we get to the leasing, let's get to the energy savings initiatives. And now you indicated that on January 20th you basically have the financing secured.
Yes, but we are in the period though where there is an opportunity for protest, so the award has not been finalized. But there was a responder to the request for proposal, a commercial lending institution, and I've been told that their offer was acceptable, and so it's just a matter now of running the course, the proper course of procurement, and then negotiating for that.
Okay. And is this initiative going under the oversight basically of the Guam Power Authority?
It is a direct loan with the airport. It's the airport is borrowing the money, so it is our debt.
Okay.
Basically, GPA is facilitating in the administrative portion of this this contract, working with JCI on our behalf.
Okay. All right. On the airport projects, you indicated work in progress right now is the airport master plan. I presume the airport is aware that all master plans must come through the legislature for review and approval, the same way that the Port Authority sent their master plan here. I presume the airport is aware of that.
I'm not
Okay. You
certain
might want
that it
to
was
then-
done in past practices.
Talking about the JCI?
No, I'm talking about whatever whatever I presume this is the airport master plan that's being worked on. Yeah, so I
Mr.
believe,
Chairman, we are aware of it. As former manager of the airport, we do bring it down here for concurrence, and unless, you know, the kind heart of, to your committee, if there's any question that needs to be asked, we have a 45 window before it actually, I think, either legislature acts or don't act on it, then it becomes part an inherent portion of that master plan.
yeah,
But yes, we bring it down here.
yeah, I believe the Guam Code requires all master plans to come here, and either the legislature has either 90 days to 45, 90. We have to check with, we'll check with legal counsel, but there's that cooking time, and if the legislature does not act on it, then it lapses into approval. Otherwise, if there's some, you know, if the plan raises some concerns, such as the anticipated economic impact, and issues associated with any master plan, then we may need to do something a little more with it.
Okay, and I will follow through. This is an update to the existing plan.
Right. The Port Authority of Guam had also what they call their 2007 master plan, which was an update to the one that they had in 19 whenever, and it took them. Not that I expect that it would take that same time, but they started in 2007 and it finally got legislative approval in 2009 because they didn't come down with everything that was needed. On this noise mitigation phase 2, and then you've got Plan A phase 3. Can you describe that a little bit? Is that going to be something like a lateral expansion of the area to be covered for noise mitigation projects? Because I know there's some houses right now, right by where those landing lights are on the south side of Route 8, and for some reason, just a few feet off, and they were not within the range, I guess, that would be make them eligible for this noise mitigation program.
Right.
So when we go to phase 2 and phase 3, what is that looking at? An expansion laterally?
I believe that is a completion of those homes that had been previously surveyed and identified as eligible for the mitigation efforts. So it is a completion of that. There was some, and it has to do with funding stages.
Oh, so the households then that will be basically benefited by this noise mitigation program have already been identified previously.
Yes.
We're not looking at adding more. Okay. Okay. Did you have questions on?
I just have two short ones and I'll be done. Another constituent discussion. In the area of your revenue generation on the lease space within the airport, a number of folks, particularly with the Buy Guam movement and everything else, have approached me saying, you know, could you check if the airport has any plans for additional sales or even just sales of locally made crafts, goods, food products such as cookies and the like, to make an appearance, you know, to have a chance at selling also on departure of our guests or even of our local residents.
We are in fact looking at identifying areas within the arrivals lobby that can be commercial zones, and that is something that we're discussing. There may be an opportunity with a grant option to explore renovation of certain spaces so that they can accommodate that kind of commerce. But we are cognizant of the disadvantaged business enterprise requirements. We're cognizant of the need for cultural enhancements and the cultural experience. And we also do have outreach efforts where we want to engage the community to some degree in the airport experience and the delivery of customer service at the airport. So yes, Senator, that is something that we've discussed in-house, and we actually have some vision of what we can do within the arrivals area as a start.
Okay. Yeah, I just think it would be fair. It certainly makes sense to maximize your profit per square foot, and high-end goods, of course, carry that greatest degree. But I don't know. Sometimes I wonder with the tourists, and Mike probably knows this, that our guests that we've been dealing with lately, they're probably not on that higher end. And man, maybe a $5 bag of cookies or chocolates or some handcraft product that would mean a lot and resemble Guam more would be some just food for thought. And I'm glad you're already engaged in it. We look forward to more discussion on that.
Okay.
Just one last final question, Mr. Chair.
Senator, on
Yeah.
the board level, this is something I would very much support, and I'm sure the other board members would also support if we have a vendor would be interested. We of course have to check our leasing agreements because of course sometimes there's some exclusivity clauses
Sure.
and stuff like that. But if it's possible and something that it definitely, one of the things we initiated was music, where we purchased local music.
Yeah.
And we try to play that as much as often throughout the terminal.
Sure. And the thing is perhaps even kiosks. I mean, I've seen those pop up quite a bit more, and everything else, the carts, the kiosks, just because you have so much, space walking to the jetways, and maybe not in your prime space of where your duty free. They got that last $5 or $10 out there walking to the gate. It might make a difference to some local vendors. So, just really quickly on the efficiency and passenger processing. I know that the speaker held a meeting here a couple of months ago with Immigration and Customs U.S., and their recommendation was as much as possible with the airport to try to get that screening going faster, and especially with the new markets we're looking at, was to maximize the pre-screening. They have an acronym for it. It sounds like a Latin-based name or something they call it. I forget what it is. ESTA, yeah. ESTA later. But or ESTA now. But yeah, under that program, from what I understand, it is very beneficial, and that is actually something that has really helped, and they just want to see if it can be marketed better. Is that something we're looking at?
That's one of the collaborative efforts that we have with the Guam Visitors Bureau. And we've actually started a NESTA program in the Customs Hall, and it is working. But that's the sort of thing where it has to be marketed on the origin side
Right.
by the passengers or the agents that are ticketing them, so that they can get their documents and apply for it. And what ESTA is it's an electronic processing, so they're pre-cleared. They come in, their passports are swiped, and it pops up on the computer as opposed to filling out the forms. But it is successful. In fact, to the point where we've had to create double lines and.
Sounds like a marketing tool for GVB too. And
Yeah,
much
it is.
collaboration has been discussed in
But
your presentation. So
It started. It's already started.
thanks, Mary.
The ESTA program was hugely successful. As Mary said, we're actually looking to expand it. But our biggest challenge has been the fact is we deal with many, many agencies. We've got Guam Customs, we've got TSA,
Yeah.
we have, in this case, Immigration. A lot of these people we don't have any control over. However, through persuasion, we cooperate. And one of the items that came up is the ambassador program. And again, this is a cooperative effort with, we have to get the cooperation of Immigration because they have to allow. What it is a lot of reasons why our screening is held up is our passengers don't fill out the forms correctly, or they forget to fill out one little section.
That was the finding.
So we have been hiring, the airport and GVB have been hiring ambassadors to go around and pre-check them. But we also are working with the airline, so there's multiple layers that we're doing all at once to help improve it. But that is one of the scariest is that delay in arrival, and then we're also working with the delays that are occurring on the departure side with the airport screening. They recently implemented a much tougher regimen, and it's been slowing things down. So we're reacting to that as well.
Makes sense. I mean, they're standing in line for so long anyways. Might as well make sure their paperwork's correct. Thanks a lot, Mike.
Well, I just have one point which I don't think we need to cover this evening, but I would like to cover it at a future meeting like this, and that is with respect to the ground transportation that the arriving passengers then get on to get to their next destination inland. And the two pieces that really just hit you when you come out of the buses, where they park, and then all that, if you're not careful, you could slip on the diesel droppings and whatnot. And I hope that is something that the airport is looking at. The other thing, of course, is the taxi cabs. Um, and I don't know that I don't know that we want to get to the point where you basically contract it out to to the lowest bidding concessionaire. I mean, there may be benefits to that. There's also probably just as much drawbacks to that. But that is something that I hope that we can look at closer in future discussions and see how that is being handled there at the airport. So, did you have something on that?
Well, on the buses, yeah, we have several initiatives that we're working on. Again, a lot of this has to be cleared with safety. We have to also check with a lot of people. But one of the issues we have is the buses, they like to just pull in, park, and use our area our loading area as a parking lot. And again, that gets down to management of the buses, trying to get some cooperations where we one suggestion was to build a larger cover. The complaints we're getting was the passengers are complaining that when they're getting out to the buses, they're getting covered in water, in addition to having to run and dodge between buses. One solution that is being looked at, I'm not sure the status is, and it's also as a pollution issue that I have a problem with. My problem is in addition to the diesel and all that, when you walk out, the fumes of the buses are enough to knock you dead, especially at 6 a.m. in the morning, just as the sun is rising. And one suggestion has been to make the buses park away from the parking area and only allow them to come forward and do active loading and unloading only, and then pull away, and not to allow the parking of the buses and the motors running and the bus driver runs around inside. So there's some operational items that we can improve on without having to necessarily increase. A lot of it also, I think, it goes back to the Tiyan Parkway issue, because eventually the Tiyan Parkway is going to also maybe be cutting some of our parking area. So we need to coordinate that a little bit. So we're not totally in control sometimes in that area right now.
Okay. All right. Well, with that, I want to thank you for the effort that you've put into this briefing and the presentation. I think you gave an excellent presentation, and I want to thank you for that. And I hope that, I'm sure we have senators who are watching on TV, and I'm sure that we also have a lot of the folks in our community that may have been watching this briefing. So with that, then we will adjourn this information briefing, and I now have, unless you have some final words.
I just want to thank you, Senator, for your attention to the airport. I think that a lot of our progress has been a result of your facilitation and your assistance as well. So, thank you as well for partnering and being a very good chairman to us, because that's what makes our business work.
Right. Well,
Is when we have efforts from senators and partners.
Okay.
So
Well,
thank
thank you
you.
very much for that. And with that, we'll adjourn this briefing, and I have 7:58.